Right. So good evening to all of you colleagues. I welcome you to our orientational session or seminar for AUI 4861 in the 2026 academic year. So my name is Mr. Privilege, and I'll be the host with respect to the seminar that we're going to engage on tonight with Grad Quest Consulting and Tutorials. So without further ado, I just want to take you to the next slideshow briefly. So for those of you that are new, maybe that were not in attendance in the previous seminar that was held last week for AUI 4862, we are Grad Quest Consulting, and is an institution. We are a private tutorial institution. And what we do is we specialize in academic support for students from various university institutions, from the level of undergraduate all the way to PhD level. So in your case, obviously, you fall within the category of those that are doing postgraduate, and to be exact, that's your honors in internal auditing. Our team comprises of highly qualified tutors across diverse fields of study that obviously includes the field of economics, management, and social sciences, related faculty, the field of science and information technology, also commonly known as BSc and IT faculty, and the faculty of law. Our objective or primary goal as an institution is to help students to complete their qualifications in record time. We achieve this through personalized, value-driven tutoring services designed to strengthen understanding and academic performance. Our approach is such that we believe in teamwork and collaboration between the tutors as well as the students. By combining both efforts, dedication, and expertise, we ensure that our learners are able to reach their academic milestones efficiently and successfully. For more details or more information, we have a corporate website that is currently undergoing development updates. But as soon as that has been completed, you will be able to access more details with regards to other, modules or other services that we provide apart from the academic side of facilitation. There are other corporate services that we also provide. So that you would find at www.grdquest.co.za. Right. So that was just for opening remarks purposes. And then with respect to the outline of what we are going to be discussing about in this seminar, I'm going to take you guys, or colleagues rather, I'm going to take you guys through the module content outline in AUI 4861. I'm also going to discuss with respect to the assignments that you are going to be completing for the purposes of this particular module. And then I'll also explain in detail with respect to the tutorial services that we offer as an institution. And then, of course, we're going to have a practical class discussion where I would take you guys through one of the previous assignments for the 2024 academic year, to be exact. So I'm going to practically discuss that with you. So if you notice earlier during the course of the day today, I shared some materials in the group. So you'd notice there are at least 3 documents that I shared initially. So one is the third assignment for the 2024 academic year. So what you'd find in that document, it's a set of questions that were tested regarding to that particular assignment. So we are going to obviously focus on one of the questions, which is question 1 to be exact. And you'd notice I've also shared the global internal audit standards, which were issued or rather publicized by the Institute of Internal Auditing globally in 2024. That's when they actually introduced the global internal audit standards. And then there's another document, the third document thereof, which is this integrated report for SASO for the 2023 financial period, right? So now, important to note in regards to this is that all these documents, they are relevant or rather pertinent to the assignment question that we are going to discuss today. And in some instances, you would find even in a setup of an exam, for example, it will not be a case where, for instance, they would then provide you like with the actual integrated report for a particular company per se. However, it will be condensed information that they would provide, say, for instance, in a similar setup as to what you would find possibly in an integrated report, right? But it will be a system description like a case study scenario, but then it will be as though the information is coming from the integrated report of that particular organization. All right. So the idea, I believe, at the time when the lecturers portrayed the assignment questions in this format, it was just so as to ensure that students are familiar, or they can be able to integrate in integrated reports of organizations to practical questions that you can find in the auditing space, right? So I just thought let me point that across to you guys so that you are aware as to why I had shared those three documents earlier on. Then, of course, we'll talk about the service fees and the contact details as well, right? So, but without any further ado, I just want to run quickly through the module content outline just so that you are familiar with respect to the topics that we are going to, or the assumed knowledge, as it were, that we are going to discuss about throughout the course of this academic year. So in AUI 4861, colleagues, there's at least four essential topics to note, namely in topic one, global internal audit standards and other guidance. So hence you noticed I shared the actual global internal audit standards with you guys, which is approximately 120 pages long. So you are expected at this point and at this level to be acquainted with the knowledge, or rather with the details or content that you find in the global internal audit standards. Why? Because even in practice, you are expected to apply and to perform your responsibilities, your duties as an auditor under the confinement of those, or rather under the prescriptions of those standards, right? So it's very important. And then in topic number two, it deals with establishment, administration, and management of the internal audit function. So now I need to point out something very important. You'd notice under the assumed knowledge slideshow that is reflecting now, you might not see the individual learning units per se, but there are individual learning units that speaks to each one of these respective topics. So you will see them in the other upcoming slideshows, right? So topic two deals with establishment, administration, and the management of the internal audit function. So what you would find in that topic, just at a high level really, is you're going to look at the process that is followed by the chief audit executive of an organization to establish the internal audit function within the organization in question, right? So there are at least about 9 essential steps that you're going to learn about that has to be followed for an internal audit activity to be established. And then you're also going to learn about the different forms or types of internal audit structures that you can have in place within an entity. So for instance, if an organization is still at, let me just say, at the beginning phase, like, where they've just started operations, under normal circumstances at that level, they would not necessarily need to establish what we call an in-house internal audit function. But what would work best for them under those circumstances would be for them to outsource the internal audit function. So outsourced internal audit function, it's another form of an internal audit structure that you can actually establish for an entity. Then the third one, it's the co-sourced internal audit function. So there are 3 of them that are very important to note, colleagues. I'm going to teach you in detail with regards to that when we get to that point. Then in topic number 3, it deals with integrated reporting, right? It also deals with corporate social responsibility, which is abbreviated CSR. And it also deals with environmental, social, and governance reporting. All right. Now, I need to point out this before we continue to the next topic. Corporate social responsibility, it has to do with the efforts, the input that the organization uh, gives, or rather that they put to contribute to society at large, right? And then, of course, it goes hand in hand also with how they are contributing to the environment and how the organization is, portraying itself in, say, for instance, in its we call that macro environment, right? So where you find the customer or the consumers to that organization, where you find the suppliers, the government regulators, as key essential role players, even the media also forms part of it, right? So how does the organization relate itself in that particular structure? And also, how is the organization managing its economic activities from an internal perspective? And then, of course, in relation to how it is engaging with them, with the other interested parties in its macro environment, right? So that's where governance reporting aspect comes into the picture. So, but we're going to deal with that in a greater detail when we get to that point. Then in topic number 4, it deals with a concept called combined assurance, right? Uh, Look, so with combined assurance, just at a high level, combined assurance, it has to do with what we call collaborative efforts of various assurance service providers. So that involves different, let me just say, that involves the internal audit function, external auditors, and any other form of assurance service provider, be it quality assurers, of the organization. But essentially, when we're talking about combined assurance in this sense, we are really looking at internal audit and the external audit function primarily, right? So that's another important topic to note in this module. Then moving on to the next slide show, we then begin to break down in detail what you're going to uncover in topic 1, for example. So topic 1, as I pointed out earlier, it's about the global internal audit standards and other guidance that the internal auditor, as a professional expert, is expected to observe upon carrying out his or her responsibility to the employer. Right. So, what are those essential topics or other guidance of note that you're going to be expected to observe? So, the obvious one is the Global Internal Audit Standard, right? And that's what you find in Learning Unit 1. So, the application of the Global Internal Audit Standards in managing the internal audit function. And then Learning Unit 2 deals with the key 4 requirements pertaining to managing the internal audit function. So what is important from there is to understand what role does the chief audit executive perform, in regards to managing the internal audit function. So you need to know the roles of the chief audit executive in regards to the establishment of the internal audit function or internal audit structure itself within the organization, and also how he or she is supposed to manage the department within the organization to ensure that they maintain their independency and their objectivity in the entity. Right. So that's Learning Unit 2 for you. Learning Unit 3, it touches on public sector guidance on managing the internal audit function. And then Learning Unit 4, it deals with the private sector guidance on managing the internal audit function. I just want to take you a little bit back to Learning Unit 3. When they are saying public sector guidance on managing the internal audit function, you'd notice that, for instance, in your line, or let me just say in the auditing, internal audit space, you're going to, at some point, depending on the entity you are working for or the firm that you're working for, be exposed to a case where you have to audit a public entity. So a public entity can be anything like a municipality, it can be anything like a government department per se. So now there are parameters that regulates how you as an internal auditor is expected to carry out your responsibilities or provide assurance services in that respect. For example, Say, for instance, you are performing, let's just say it's a risk and governance review, right? A risk and governance review in a municipality, right? So what are those parameters that you are expected to use as an auditor, for example, just to ensure that there is efficiency in how that municipality is carrying out its activities, to the public. So definitely you need to have knowledge with regards to your ISO 31000, for example, right? You need to definitely have knowledge of the public's, we call it the public sector risk management framework, right? You need to have knowledge around that. You need to have knowledge around the PFMA. You need to have knowledge about the MFMA, particularly the MFMA if you are dealing with the municipality, assessment. But obviously, if we're looking at it from a departmental level, then obviously that's where the Public Sector Management Act comes into act, or rather comes into play, right? So that's what you're going to be seeing when you go to learning unit 3 when they are saying public sector guidance on managing the internal audit function, right? Very important. So moving on to topic 2, which is establishment, administration, and management of the internal audit function. There is about 4 essential learning units there. That is learning unit 5 all the way to learning unit 8. In learning unit 5, you would find that's where you're going to discuss around the different forms of the internal audit structures that you would find that an organization can apply. So it's either they go with what we call the in-house internal audit structure, so whereby there is a department in the organization that is called internal audit, or what they call the internal audit department, right? So when you have something like that in an organization, it means they have an in-house internal audit structure normally. Or you can have an outsourced internal audit structure. When it's like that, it means the organization is basically outsourcing the service from an audit firm somewhere that provide internal audit services. So that's what we call an outsourced internal audit structure. But then when you have a core-sourced internal audit function or core-sourced internal audit structure, it's one way there is an existing in-house internal audit function already, but then they are collaborating their efforts with an external service provider towards a particular goal, or let me say towards a particular audit activity. So for example, maybe there is a compliance audit, or let me say an IT audit rather, or what they call ICT audit now in this modern day, that is being performed. And it so happens that the in-house internal audit structure in place lacks certain expertise, say for instance, to audit within the computer environment. So what would the internal audit department do? They would co-source that particular part of the audit, to an external audit firm, or let me say to an external internal audit service provider, to collaborate their efforts towards completing that particular audit. Right. So that's where you have a co-sourced internal audit function normally. But look, we're going to touch in detail regarding to that when we get to that stage. Then in learning unit 6, it deals with establishment, administration, and management of the internal audit function. So if you have assessed, of course, what type of an internal audit structure is suitable to your entity or to your organization, the next step obviously is to then ensure that you get it established. You perform the administrative related activities to ensure that it is put in place. Learning unit 7, stakeholder and audit communication. So look, this one is very important because it's one of those that determines or defines the position of the internal audit function in the organization. And in simple, or let me say in short, this is where your functional reporting plays a vital role. This is also where your administrative function does perform or rather play a key role in that sense, right? But I mean, essentially at the end of the day, to ensure that there is independency of the internal audit function, there has to be some form of functional reporting that is taking place between the CAE and the audit committee or the board, to be precise. Right. So that's what you're going to learn about in learning unit number 7. Learning unit number 8 deals with marketing the internal audit function. How does the chief audit executive sell the internal audit function to the internal role players in the company or in the organization. That's the marketing of the internal audit function that you are seeing there. So, for example, when an organization goes about having, say, for example, training workshops for its employees. So during those types of engagements like that or of that nature, it's a platform actually that, the CAE can also make use of just to project to various departments in the company the value, the purpose, the internal audit function in the company and the value, of course, that they bring to the table or that they contribute to the various business units in the company so that at the end of the day, they can do things better, right? That's what you're going to learn in learning unit number 8, just in short. Topic 3, colleagues, integrated reporting, CSR, and environmental, social, and governance reporting. There are about 3 essential learning units there. Integrated reporting becomes vital. So you need to understand what is integrated reporting. At the same time, you're going to learn about integrated thinking. All right. Because you cannot have integrated reporting unless there is integrated thinking approach that is being applied in that organization. Learning Unit 10 deals with corporate social responsibility. So what is key there is the role that the chief audit executive play or the role that the internal audit function plays in the corporate social responsibility initiatives of the organization. And then, so obviously, there's assurance, service that is to be done, or rather, that is to be performed by the internal audit function, just to ensure that the corporate social responsibility of the company, they are relevant, they are adding value to society, and there are some improvements that can be reported, as a result of what has been done already. And also identifying areas that perhaps may require improvements in terms of how the organization is, going or embarking in their corporate social responsibility initiatives. Why is this important? Because look, an organization, as much as it provides a service or as much as it sells a product to its consumers, but it also matters what value are they bringing to society at large. Those are some of the things that society at mass would look into to say, okay, but we have a mining entity in our location, for example. But then what are they doing to improve the welfare of the people in that locality? Or all they are doing is to extract minerals in our society and then without giving back to society at all. Or perhaps the people that they are employing are people from other locations other than the people that are origins, or let me just say people that are domiciled in that particular locality. So another way of contributing to in regards to this corporate social responsibility factor is also employing people within that locality where the company is operating. See, it's very important, but this you find it's more, dominant. This element it's more predominant in the mining sector, construction sector, and all of that, right? And then of course, learning unit 11 dealing with environmental, social, and governance reporting. So that is perhaps the reason why you'd notice, for example, with the assignment that we're going to look into, the lecturers wanted you guys to get to that place where you are exposed to actual integrated reports of an existing company and they asked you questions pertinent to that particular, organization's integrated report. So in this instance, obviously, it had to do with SASO. Now, learning unit 4, which is the last topic in this module, it is one learning unit. It's one of the most shortest topics in the module. But also, look, they can ask you some questions that in some instances it can go like about 10% of the exam or 10% of your assignment, depending, whichever the case. But it's one of the shortest, really, and I'm not saying that it's not important. It is, but what is key is to note is the fact that it's short, you know, but it's also of value somewhat. With regards to assignments, colleagues, there are 4 essential assignments in this module. I'm taking all of these on the basis of what transpired in the previous or the most recent academic year. unless otherwise changed. Normally, they test you guys on 4 essential assignments. 2 of those are MCQs based assignments or quizzes in nature. And then, sorry about that, colleagues. And then the other 2 are essay based types of assignments. So when you're saying essay based types of assignments, it's a good example. It's the kind of assignment that we're going to be discussing about shortly, right? Are we still together, colleagues? Hello?
Yeah, well,
Okay, brilliant. Awesome. Then, in terms of our tutorial services, colleagues, these are the tutorial services that we provide. So we normally conduct our classes online, in online via Zoom. In some instances, but under rare cases, we use Teams if need be, right? But usually we conduct our sessions using Zoom. I'm talking also in regards to the official classes, which are commencing next week from Monday. Those will be conducted via Zoom in this similar setup, such as the one that we are having now. And then we'll also provide guidelines with regards to your assignments. So when I'm saying guidelines, I'm talking about we're going to have a discussion of the assignment. We evaluate it together, but then all in all, as much as I'll, for instance, have a discussion with you guys with a guiding template, you still have the responsibility as a student to do your own work, or rather to do your own assignments at the end of your own assignment at the end of the day. Why is that the case? For instance, number one, to ensure that we don't defile the purpose of learning. Number two, to also avoid instances of plagiarism, especially when it comes to essay-based assignments. My advice would be when we get to that stage where we are discussing an essay-based assignment, and I have a guiding template that I would have, for instance, compiled, and then I'm discussing with you, don't take everything that appears in that guiding template and submit it as your own work. It will be literally flagged for plagiarism. So never do that. But what you do is attend the class. We have the discussion of the assignment. You see, okay, this is the step that you followed to answer the question. Then you would follow the similar. Uh, sorry about that, guys. Then you follow the similar setup to respond to questions. That's how we are going to do it when it comes to assignments. Then, of course, there's what we call exam preparation boot camps. These ones are normally conducted towards exam time. So, for instance, a week before or 2 weeks before the exam, what you're going to do is we're going to have marathon classes. It would normally go like 3 hours long for each session. Probably we may have 3 or 4 per module, depending on what still needs to be covered. But all these sessions are literally intended to ensure that the student is fit for the examination. So what you would find in that package, it will include marathon classes, exam preparation packs, that is basically past assignment questions, with their solutions as well. And then, of course, preparatory notes. Preparatory notes, colleagues, these are summarized notes of the module topics so that one at least is able to have a guiding template on how to also do their personal study. Okay. Then we also do on one-on-one consultations. We also provide research guidelines and professional editing. This is usually when it comes to thesis, but I think this would be more applicable when you embark on the journey of your master's program or your PhD program. This is where this might become essential. Then, of course, career guideline. It's also part of our service package, right? I don't know if there's any questions regarding to this before I can move on. Um, Going once, going twice. Okay, let me check if there's a question on the chat platform. Okay, it seems there's none. All right, so we can move on to the next slideshow. So the next step that we are about to jump to is the class discussion stage. So on the class discussion stage, here is what we're going to do, but it will happen in the second segment of this seminar, right? So I'm going to take you guys through assignment 3 of the 2024 academic year. And to be precise, we are going to look into question number 1 of that particular assignment. So to do that, I would have to project a different screen, right? Can you all see my screen? My other screen, rather, with the PDF document displayed.
Yes.
All right, brilliant. So this is the question. So we're going to look into this third assignment for the 2024 academic year. But I'll do that particular discussion in the next segment, which we will reconnect. I think let's just give ourselves 10 minutes and then we'll reconnect for that particular segment. So you use the same meeting link. So now it's 1934. So I think 1945, we can reconnect for part B. Thank you, guys. So you just use the same links to reconnect. Thank you.